Hello, here we are for one more week of the creation. Now we are in letter I from interpersonal relationships. The psychology and the sociology defines interpersonal relationships as connection between two or more people. When we think about relationships, we always think about a sense of exchange. Like a relationship, it's to give and take. Things like that. Think about all the relationships, friendship, a family. There's an exchange there. An exchange of information, an exchange of affection, an exchange of love. A lot of things going on there. You give and take. And that's what makes us related. You may be thinking, like, how do we develop these interpersonal relations? As the science already defines, we are social beings. That's why in Genesis God say it's not good for the man to be by himself, because we were created to be social beings. That's why since we are born in this world, we are making connections with your parents, with your family, with your teachers, with your school friends, and so on. We are still making the connections until today. And that's how natural it is for us. But also, interpersonal relations, it's not just natural and a natural process to the human beings. It's also an ability that is quite related to our childhood quality. If we had good qualities in childhood, probably we have good friends, and we have good memories, and we have a good self-esteem and good relationships with the others. But unfortunately, not everyone has this luxury to have a good childhood. Because when we are children, we develop our self-esteem, our self-image. And that's very important to how we relate to someone else. There is a quote that says, "We just accept the love that we believe we deserve." And that's how the self-esteem get into it. Some kids, they don't have a good self-esteem because of the way they were raised. So they have difficult in the interpersonal relationships. Also, the patterns of communication. As children, we tend to reproduce what we see at home. If you have children, you should be careful, because the communication pattern, it's reproduced by the kids. If the kids only hear their parents screaming and aggressive and violent communication, that's the kind of communication that he probably will be using to make connections. And what kind of connections can a violent kind of communication establish for them? It's difficult for it. So, how do we connect? Through the language. But it's not only language, like Portuguese, English, Spanish. No. I lived in Egypt for 1 year. I never spoke one word in Arabic, but I could communicate with them, because the communication is not resumed in like verbal language. We have the body language that sends a lot of messages. We have emotional language. We as human beings, we tend to understand, we tend to feel someone's feeling. So we have many different types of communication, and that's how we make connections. You may be wondering, why it's so important Because if we are honest, sometimes we get so tired of connecting with people. Sometimes we want just to lock ourselves and to live the rest of our lives with our pets. There's even this quote that say, the more I know people, the more I love my cat, I love my pets. But it is really important, and the answer, unfortunately for you who is unsocial, shy, sorry about it, but it's extremely important, because interpersonal relationships can enrich our lives, because connections change us. You are probably the sum of all the connections you made your whole life. You know? Every person you met, every friend you made, every connection you made, it changed you. It taught you something new. It gave you a new experience that may change your life. So you today are the result of all these previous connections. So it's so important, or else we'll get stuck. We don't grow, we don't mature. So it's really important. If you want to keep improving yourself, so I would advise you, keep making connections, good connections with good people, but keep making interpersonal connections. Also, it allows us to relate with a world outside of ourselves. That's so important, so important. Because when you make connections with someone else, we remember that the world is way bigger than ourselves. You know? That's something we must keep on our minds. That the way I see the world, it's not the only way. The way I live my life is not the only way. What I think it's good, maybe it's not for someone else. And when you make connections with people, you have this experience. You probably will have different opinions. You probably will debate about a lot of points, a lot of different point of views. And it's not only enrich you, but also makes you understand that the world don't revolve around you. So you may be wondering, okay, it's important. So how can I improve my interpersonal relationships? First of all, self-knowledge. Because traumas, sometimes we project these traumas on the people around us. A low self-esteem can and will affect the way you relate to people. We project our fears, we project our self-loathe on the people around us, unfortunately. And you probably, if you have some trauma, you'll probably be able to traumatize someone else because of these relationships. So if you want healthy connections, you need to be healthy. So the self-knowledge is important, so you can understand, whoa, maybe I need to heal here. I need some healing because I'm not okay and I'm hurting the people around me. And to understand yourself is always good. Also, to exercise a healthy pattern of communication. Try to avoid violent kinds of communication. And the last one, allow yourself to be vulnerable. Only an honest vulnerability will allow you to have an honest connection. I know we have a lot of pride, we are afraid to be hurt, but sometimes that's the only way to have a real connection. Jesus was the master of connecting to people. We should follow his ways. And that's the only way we can reach people. That's how Jesus reached people and changed lives. and keep changing until today. I hope for you to, in this new week, to make new connections, healthy connections, not only with someone else, but with yourself. Because connecting with yourself, it's the first step to connect with someone else. I hope you get enriched by experience, by connections on this week. May God bless you all.